All right, family. Black Power. Black Power is the truth. Hour with General Sarah Soon said he kick back, get your mind ready for some information that's guaranteed to be heavy. I'm excited and delighted to be accepting members to the Sarah Soon said YouTube page, a dynamic page. Y'all know what it is. Black Power, Black Frequency. You feeling that frequency and energy, you should most definitely join. Link right down in the video description in the chat. Click that link. You'll get a video introduction, rundown on the memberships, what they entail. You see one you like, you should most definitely join, even if you don't. I appreciate your presence here at the Sarah Sunseti YouTube page. Continue to engage, continue to advance. That's right, family. Ring the alarm, KingSeti.com, online marketplace, 25% off selected items at this time. African and we got African General Seti DVDs, t-shirts, African and Kemetic jewelry, holistic tonics and remedies, home decor, accessories for every room in the house. We got you 25% off selected items at this time. Shop and save and shop. Ring the alarm, pull the fire alarm, generalseti.com, SETI University, over 1,500 videos of pure heat, fire from the general, all the subjects that you know and love. We got the supplemental, also monumental and instrumental research material from the Grandmaster teachers. I give you an overview on all the material, giving you 360 degrees of supreme African academic wisdom and knowledge that cannot be surpassed by any other website on the planet. I want you over there today, become a member and get your hands down in that treasure chest. And everybody knows SETI popping on Patreon, BPC making noise. We never calm. Exclusive live stream, too hot to handle on YouTube, but just so exquisite. We keep it for our family on Patreon, man. We got over 500 exclusive live streams. The perks, the main perks is you get to see the general go live. You got access to videos that have never been seen on any other platform. So you want to get over there today, become a patron. We got some for everybody. So join today. All the family out there, donate to the general. I thank you. I appreciate the fact you appreciate me. Any of the family would like to donate to the general, to this cause, link in the video description in the chat. Click it, donate. I thank you ahead of time. Make sure you subscribe to all my YouTube channels, King Seti, General Seti, Sarah Soon Seti. Rock that notification bell. Get a video a thumbs up. Like it because you love it. Share with your family and friends. And comment. Just don't say nothing stupid because I will ban your ass. Now, we're going to be talking about what Malcolm X thought of Martin Luther King. I know we just, Martin Luther King birthday just passed, and, they're going to always, I have a dream. Nigga been dreaming damn near 200 years. We got to come up out of that state of dreaming. You must dream, though. But, but you got to do more than dream. You got to have a plan. Just like Dr. John Henry Clark, Master, Grandmaster, Baba John Henry Clark said, you have a dream, but also have a plan. You see, have a plan. You dream, then you plan. And so that's all we hear. I have a dream. And we've been goddamn, it ain't a dream, it's a goddamn nightmare. We've been dreaming so long, it became a goddamn nightmare because ain't nothing, we have never seen that dream come true because it's not really a dream. It's a delusion. It's a delusion which you living in a delusion and you trapped in that matrix. It's like the genie in the lamp, in those delusions become the lamp and you trapped in and you don't know how to get out. You keep spinning the wheel over and over and over, just like them what they call the Sisyphus. Sisyphus, the guy that rolls the ball up the goddamn hill till he damn near get it to the top, and then it rolls down, and he's cursed to roll this goddamn ball up this goddamn hill for eternity, and it keep rolling down. He damn near get it to the top, and the motherfucker roll all the way back down. That's where we at today. That's where we stuck. You see, and so I really wanted to, let people hear, Malcolm X, and what he thought of Martin Luther King. Now, I understand that, Malcolm evolved. And I'm not, in many respects, his evolution was necessary. But when you evolve, it's some things that even in that, in what we think is evolution, when you going into the unknown and you sometimes you evolving and you don't necessarily know, where you going, you latch on to some shit that might not be for you. And so, the Old Testament, Malcolm X was much more, revolutionary, militancy, and about about black nationalism. And and yes, he evolved into some things. I didn't see him grow out of black nationalism, but there was most definitely you know starting to build with Arabs and shit and this, that, and the third in his aspiration, because he was a Muslim. He was a Muslim still, and that just show you how a lot of times you can't mix two ideologies like that. You can't mix black nationalism with Islam and in other forms. Black nationalism must be your religion. That just show you, it must be your religion. You can't, and that's it. Because even in the Bible it says you cannot serve two masters, because you're gonna love one and you're gonna hate the other. You see, and so in his thinking, Islam trumped some black power on the global scale. Where he was willing to engage with Arabs and shit and this, that, and the third, which we not gonna do. We will never do no shit like that, because you can see what the Arabs is doing to Africa right now today. You see, and even if it wasn't, I still wouldn't engage them. You see, and so that was the naivete in that. And we don't know where Malcolm X would have grew, but he was most definitely in love with Islam. So I don't believe, maybe he would, maybe he wouldn't. Who knows? He was an evolving in evolving man. He was always learning. He was always studying. And I know he was, very close to Dr. John Henry Clark. And I'm quite sure that, Baba was, dropping some knowledge on him. And it was quite evident, because Dr. John Henry Clark was one of the principal scholars that helped him put that charter together for the African American Organization of Unity. And so I know I know he was dropping some knowledge on him about, and so that's, but in saying that, this is Old Testament Malcolm. This is not New Testament Malcolm, where he, maybe took his foot off of Martin Luther King neck a little bit. You see what I'm saying? I'm gonna play the Old Testament Malcolm. You see that, he told it like it TI is. You feel what I'm saying? So let me get this all the way to the beginning, and let me get this up here. Let me get this up here, and let's listen to what Malcolm X, Old Testament Malcolm X, thought about Martin Luther King.
Suggested also that this movement preaches a gospel of violence.
No, the black people in this country have been the victims of violence at the hands of the white man for 400 years. And following the ignorant Negro preachers, we have thought that it was godlike to turn the other cheek to the brute that was brutalizing us. And today, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is showing black people in this country that just as the white man and every other person on this earth has God-given rights, natural rights, civil rights, any kind of right that you can think of when it comes to defending himself, black people we should have the right to defend ourselves also. And because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad makes black people brave enough, men enough to defend ourselves no matter what the odds are, the white man runs around here with the doctrine that Mr. Muhammad is advocating violence when he's actually telling Negroes to defend themselves against violent people.
I see. Well, Reverend Martin Luther King preaches a doctrine of nonviolent insistence upon the rights of the American Negro. What is your attitude toward this philosophy?
The white man pays Reverend Martin Luther King, subsidizes Reverend Martin Luther King, so that Reverend Martin Luther King can continue to teach the Negroes to be defenseless. That's what you mean by nonviolent. Be defenseless. Be defenseless in the face of one of the most cruel beasts that has ever taken the people into captivity. That's this American white man. And they have proved it throughout the country by the police dogs and the police clubs. 100 years ago, they used to put on a white sheet and use a bloodhound against Negroes. Today, they have taken off the white sheet and put on police uniforms. They've traded in the bloodhounds for police dogs, and they're still doing the same thing. And just as Uncle Tom, back during slavery, used to keep the Negroes from resisting the bloodhound or resisting the Ku Klux Klan by teaching them to love their enemy or pray for those who use them despitefully. Today, Martin Luther King is just a 20th century or modern Uncle Tom or a religious Uncle Tom who is doing the same thing today to keep Negroes defenseless in the face of attack that Uncle Tom did on the plantation to keep those Negroes defenseless in the face of the attacks of the Klan in that day.
I mean, goddamn, Malcolm. Whew. Boy, you know, I mean, damn, you know, can you be any clearer? You feel me? Say, goddamn it, these white people pay Martin Luther King to keep niggas defenseless. Out there, you know, you out there and you marching and they busting your ass upside the head. Niggas say, oh, I forgive you. Yeah, I forgive you. I forgive you. You bust my head open. I'm bleeding. I'm leaking like a motherfucker. They sitting in the goddamn diner and shit. Motherfucker come in and bust a pie over your motherfucking head and crack and pour all type of, you know, orange juice and goddamn milkshakes over your motherfucking head. And you sit there. You understand? In shame. In shame. To, you know, and so, yeah, this is what they did. And, you know, and what did they get out of it? You know, at the end of the day, what the fuck did they get out of it? I mean, you know, you have to look and say, oh, well, today we got, you got a few niggas out there that they use as, you know, symbols of you know, the American dream. You know, you got all, and every one of these niggas out here, they knocking their ass down like dominoes, you know, and they ain't done nothing for the rest of the people. You know, I would rather have it integration where our people had, you know, they had the aspirations to control their own community. You see, had the aspirations to control their education. They are, see, we see, the thing is, you know, what we find ourselves doing, and I'm gonna tell you, it's gonna continue, you know, where we trying to get back. We look back into the 60s, the 50s, the 40s, you know, and the 30s and the 20s, and we say, you know what? We more advanced than them, but the reality, we're not. You see, we're not more advanced. Back then, our people, you know, on average, knew how to plant, you know, food. You know, they knew how to farm their own food. You know what I'm saying? They knew how to preserve food. You know, living out in nature. They knew how to take care of themselves. They knew all the herbs out in the fields. You see, they knew all of that. You know, we talking about on average. You know, our people understood that, and they had they didn't have no aspirations to live with white people, because white people hadn't, you know, they was killing niggas, and they killing niggas today. But you know, they let you know that they didn't want your ass in their community, and if you came in their community to do anything, nigga, you was gonna be subservient. Don't nobody who would want to go to a white man's city where you got to walk in the streets while they, if you on the sidewalk and they come down the sidewalk, nigga, you got to go in the street. You see, and then they got, nigga, you couldn't even laugh in front of white people. They had what they call laughing barrels, and if you had to laugh, nigga, you had to take the top off the goddamn laugh and stick your motherfucking head down in the goddamn the barrel. You understand? To laugh, nigga, you couldn't even, you had to be straight faced in front of white people. You see? And so, you know, and so, you know, and you talking about, you know, our image was destroyed, nigga, where everything you look up at, you know, you see sambos and jigaboos and all type of, that's why we didn't want to be African. You see, they did a number on our ass. That's why we didn't want to be African, because when we looked at Sambo and we looked at Buckwheat and we looked at all these jigaboo niggas, you see, we saw the ridicule, and we saw, you know, that we know, and they told us that niggas in Africa was goddamn cannibals and shit. You see that they was cannibals. They was running around with thongs on, screaming ooga booga, with a goddamn monkey bone and one string of hair on the top of their head with a goddamn monkey bone in it. You see what I'm saying? You know, and so this is what, and we was cooking niggas and shit and all of that. And the white man, like Dr. Ben say, the white man got so close that he could see this, and they didn't cook his ass. You see, you know, we cooking niggas, but he got so close to see us do that, and we didn't cook his ass, you know. And so that just show you. And so this is why we didn't want to be, you know, that's why we didn't want to be African, you know. And so we ran away from Africa. We assumed that was African. And then when you turn around and you see white people, they the scholars, they everything that's superior, white Jesus, you know, the judge white, the policeman white, the teacher white, everybody goddamn white. So that's why motherfuckers aspired to be white, because they saw that as being superior. And so they taught us away from that. We got this one on here where Malcolm X say, who taught you to hate yourself? You see, who taught you to hate yourself? Who taught you, nigga, that you was aboriginal to an ice box called North America? I said that. Who taught you that you was original? See, it's still not, that shit you can play that right now. It ain't gonna never go nowhere. It ain't gonna never go nowhere. Malcolm X is the best teacher for Black Power 101. It don't get no better than that. He was the one that woke me up out of, and taught me. You see, he was my first teacher outside of my uncles, but he was the first teacher outside of my uncles that, that I gravitated to. Even when I was listening to Farrakhan, I was listening to Farrakhan before I was listening to Malcolm X, I was listening, but I was reading Malcolm X. But when I heard his voice, nigga, I left Farrakhan at that moment. I was like, wait a minute, because Farrakhan, he's talking some things, but Malcolm just straight politics. You know what I'm saying? When you hear Malcolm X, he do have teachings where he get off into history, but when you hear Malcolm is political. He ain't all about that fucking religion and none of that shit. He's straight policies, he's straight politics. You see, he's showing you how to build a nation, and there's no better teacher than Malcolm X. You see, in that aspect, I'm talking about that Old Testament Malcolm X. You see, and so we hearing right here where he's saying that they paying Martin Luther King to keep us nonviolent. You see, and the thing is, I'm gonna tell you this, and we're gonna move on to the finishing, because this is not that long, but I want to get to the into give you some critique on this. You see what I'm saying? To give you some critique on this. It's just like you got some dogs and shit. You see what I'm saying? And you got when if you beat a dog long enough, if you the type of nigga that beat dog, you don't really know how to teach a dog. And I'm not comparing this, but we talking about spirit and we talking about nature. You see, if you beat a dog or you beat an animal and shit long enough, you could do what they call break its spirit. You see, and I mean, when you break, it could be actually a guard dog. You see, it actually could defend you if you train it right, and this is just for a dog. I'm not saying you do this for a human, but it's comparable to humans too. When you can break a spirit, if you beat a motherfucker so long, they cower. You see, and that's what the dog will do. It'll cower if you beat it too goddamn long, and it don't, use that natural instinct to defend itself. Anything should, if you beating it, goddamn it, should raise up on your ass and defend itself. Most things in nature do that shit. Even a goddamn bee. If you hit at that, some of these bees is aggressive. You swing at that motherfucker coming back. That motherfucker coming back. I didn't, you know what I'm saying? That motherfucker come. I remember one year they let some a strain of that motherfucking killer bee. Man, them motherfuckers was even in Detroit, man. Honest God, true. That was a bad motherfucking year for them goddamn bees. Man, I ain't never seen no bees like that. These was real. They had inbred with the bee in the United States. And man, I'm telling you, if you hit at that goddamn that motherfucker like a pit bull, believe it or not, that motherfucker ain't gonna lay down. That motherfucker gonna keep coming, nigga. You gonna have to go in the house. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, you remember that? Yeah, that was crazy. Them motherfuckers was aggressive. You see, but what you break a motherfucker's spirit. So what you do in essence, that's what Martin Luther King did. If you keep teaching a motherfucker to be nonviolent, you know what I'm saying? They're just like right now. You know, and you could tell it's in a nigga spirit that he ain't got, you know, he'll be violent against his goddamn brothers. He'll be violent against his sisters, his own people. But if you tell that nigga, let's get violent on these oppressors, man, the bitch will come out of, man, straight bitch. And that come from, you know, being nonviolent in face of violence. See, this is what he's talking about. He's not saying just up and being violent just for no, he talking about in self-defense. In most nations on the planet, that's a right to defend themselves. That's why they got the goddamn gun laws in here, so that you have the right to defend you. Even if, you know, they don't even want niggas to practice the fucking rights that is inalienable rights. By nature, it is your right to defend yourself. And in the face of even the most violent, ruthless motherfuckers, they don't even want us to defend ourselves. And so over a course of so many years and shit, you know, that's a part of getting free. And a lot of people, and we took out a major component to our freedom. Because anywhere on the planet, if you read about a motherfucker getting free, all you had to do was go to their Independence Day. And I guarantee you they overthrew their oppressor. Every fucking Independence Day, most Independence Day, some of them, you know, but majority Independence Day, if you look it up, I guarantee you they physically, militarily overthrew their oppressors. But when it comes to black people, we should not have no aspirations like that at all. You are considered a terrorist. Some people, you know, that's how it is. The man in power. See, the Americans, they, you know, I seen where, you know, when they was fighting for their revolution and shit and this, that, and the third, the English was calling them terrorists. I seen the paperwork. You know, they called them terrorists. Called them, you know what I'm saying? Call them traitors and shit. This, that, and the third. But them same motherfuckers that the English was calling traitors and you know, terrorists, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and all, Americans call them they founding fathers, call them patriots and shit. This, that, and the third. So you have to understand it's in the nature. And soon as you get in, now you out of power, you a revolutionary. You gonna talk revolutionary, but when you get in power, you ain't gonna want nobody else talking like you was talking, because you in power. And if they talking about removing somebody, they talking about removing you. So it depends on how that motherfucking wheel is turning. You see, one revolutionary, when he gains control, you know, he don't want to hear no more revolutionary, even though that's what got him where he's at. Even though that's what got him where he's at was the revolution. But now that he's in power, he don't want to hear no revolution. He don't want to hear no shit like that. And so you have to understand that it's not wrong that you say it. It's about power, and people in power don't want to hear no motherfucker talking about taking power from them, even if they is a goddamn a tyrant. You see, even if they is a tyrant. And so That's why, and then, and I'm gonna go back to Malcolm, and you see the reaction a lot of time in the way that we treat ourselves. You see, because we have not given ourselves the ability to get out of the predicament we in. Some niggas just want to walk by, they want to do everything but that, even though everybody else, they're just like, the white people in America. They tried to do everything before they went to war with the British. They tried to negotiate with them. They tried to be diplomatic. You see, the English was treating these white people over here like they was dirt. You see what I'm saying? They was over here growing all the motherfucking food for England and shit, this, that, and the third. And they would get, they would deliver all what they grew to the English, and they would sell them back the same shit that they grew for damn near 10, 15 times more than, what it cost them to put it in the ground. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, they would charge them 15% more or more than that. I got to get the percentage. And so they saying, what the fuck is they doing? How the fuck you gonna win like that? You see what I'm saying? How the fuck is you gonna win like that when the shit you just grew in the ground, they sell it back to you at 100%, 75%. You see, tax, or what it took for you to put in 100 times. You see, and so that broke their back until they understood that they had exhausted all all aspirations of diplomacy and shit, and this, that, and the third. And so they had played every card that they can play. And sometimes in a situation, it can happen like that between nations, that there is just not going to be no diplomacy. We sit down, and there'll be some attempt to talk it out. And then once the two sides see that, that they're not going to be able to come to no agreement, they go to war. And see, that aspect of our existence has been removed. And so we should have probably went to war a long time ago. You see what I'm saying? For what is rightfully ours. You see, we should have, just like any other people in the world that respect themselves. We should have did that. But here we is 400 years later, and we stuck in a prison of, no ability to move one way or another. We stuck in a box. And the only way would we literally, the only way we literally can, or the way we see it, is that somebody give us something. You see, we don't have no aspiration to do for self, and a lot of the reason why we don't have aspiration to do for self is that we don't even have a shit to show for the 400 years that we've been here. We don't even have shit to show for it. You see? And so when we look at all these empty ass cities and shit, and though we have a philosophy of upliftment, we still need some startup money. We still need this capitalism. You can have all the dreams you want, but most people, they got a dream. You got to go to the bank. Who own the bank? Who print the money? You see? And so, yeah, some people make excuses, but some people are in a box. See, we want to be clear about people who make excuses and people who are in a real box that can't, that can't, you ain't gonna just up, nigga, and get out of that box without A, B, and C. And if you got to get A, B, and C from this motherfucker, and he's not willing to be diplomatic and let us and give us what he owes us, then we should have at least the card to play. Well, if you're not gonna willingly give it, we're gonna go in your motherfucking pockets and we're gonna take it. That's it. And we've never had that. We've removed that. And so that's Martin Luther King. Stay nonviolent. Just stay out. They bust your head, nigga. We got some bandages for you. Just keep walking. You understand what I'm saying? If they run you over, we gonna get you up. We'll get you to the hospital, nigga. We got some We got some down and out money for you. You understand? We'll make sure you and your family can eat for a couple of weeks and shit, but you better hurry up and get and heal and get your ass up and get back on out here. You see, that's it. Ain't gonna be no let's get down and let's get busy and let's do what we gotta do to get our freedom. And so that's what Malcolm X is saying, that symbolize, and we can see it in where we at today. We talk about all these cities, and I don't give a fuck if they got buildings, tall buildings. It's not about the fact that they had tall buildings. It's the fact, you had the Tulsas, and it was more than Tulsa, Oklahoma. We got to quit saying just Tulsa. You understand what I'm saying? They had affluent black cities all over the United States. We got to quit saying, like, because we'll think it's just one city. No, it wasn't no goddamn one city. You see, it wasn't no goddamn one city. At one time, in the height of the car industry, Detroit was the richest city in the United States. I didn't know that. But back in the 60s and 50s, Detroit was when the car industry was the top industry in the United States. Detroit was the richest city in the United States. You see, it had buildings all over it. Man, you couldn't tell a nigga nowhere in the world that was true. And go if he went to Detroit today. You would be like, nigga, you lying like a motherfucker, man. Quit making up shit for Detroit. You see, quit making up shit for Detroit, nigga. That shit ain't true. You see, but at one point in time, so you had affluent black communities all over the fucking United States at one point in time. What the fuck happened? If they had the ingenuity to get it popping, and what the fuck happened? And you will see that it wasn't as if they just fell down some racist peckerwoods that jealous in their heart, nigga, who had more armaments than than black people. Black people have some armaments now, but ultimately they bring in the military. They're gonna come with the bigger gun, and ultimately, they destroy all these goddamn cities. And what they couldn't destroy, or they didn't destroy by destruction, suffocating that goddamn city, economically, and that was the fall, in 67 in Detroit, when they rioted, that was the downfall. At that time in 67, Detroit was the richest city in the goddamn United States in 67. But when they burnt that motherfucker down during those riots, that was their goal, to punish Detroit. And they moved all them white peoples out in the sub. They took their money, they took their businesses, and they moved that shit in the suburbs. And from the time they left, Detroit went downhill. You understand? From that point on, a lot of the car plants, them motherfuckers moved out the city. They chose to go to other places and shit until you got what you have today. You see, and that's how they punish us, because they control all the economy, and that is a card that must be taken from them. That's a card, and so that's why we talk about black power. We talk about black nationalism and shit, because that's what we need. You understand? That's what we need. We need, in order, but it's it's got to be a tedious job, and we must stay on that. You understand? We must not move away from that in order for it to be real, because it's hard coming from, and we could do it. You see, we could do it. It's a hard place to come from, I must say. It is a hard mentally where motherfuckers is today. But it still could be done. It ain't like, no, it's not at all hopeless. It's a serious situation, but it's not hopeless. Let us let Malcolm finish this up.
The goal of Dr. King
was in the face of attack that Uncle Tom did on the plantation to keep those Negroes defenseless in the face of the attacks of the Klan in that day.
But the goal of Dr. King is full equality and full rights of citizenship for Negroes.
The goal of Dr. Martin Luther King is to give Negroes a chance to sit in a segregated restaurant beside the same white man who had brutalized them for 400 years. The goal of Dr. Martin Luther King is to get Negroes to forgive the people who have brutalized them for 400 years by lulling them to sleep and making them forgetting what those whites have done to them. But the masses of black people in America today don't go for what Martin Luther King is putting down. As you said in one of your articles, it's psychologically insecure or something of that sort. I forget how you put it. But you didn't endorse what Martin Luther King was doing yourself.
I do not reject his goals of full integration and full equality rights for American citizens. Do you reject these goals?
If you don't think that he's walking on the right road, I'm quite sure you don't agree that he'll get to the right place. And if you would classify his method as psychologically unrealistic, I think that if a man's method is psychologically unrealistic, which means the road or the means or the method that he's using, I think as a psychologist, you would be very doubtful that he would reach the right goal.
There is one correction, Mr. Malcolm, I'd like to make here. In that same piece that you're quoting from, I said that his methods are effective. His philosophy of love, of the oppressor, I thought, was psychologically burdensome.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, that's another thing, you know, forgiving. We hear Malcolm X talking about that, you know, Martin Luther King want a motherfucker forgive these Peckerwoods. You see? Forgive them. Forget what they done to us. That's why we in this motherfucker. And that's why niggas, because we should have been, in all the frustrations of not having the outlet to do, niggas didn't start going in on theyself. That's really the reality of it. That's the real reality of it. That a lot of this goddamn violence and shit, you understand that we is the outlet of 400 years of frustration. It should have been on their ass. But we see the conditions we in and subliminally we know we need to take it out on some goddamn body, but niggas have been trained today not to be violent to their own oppressors. They've been taught to be violent to themselves. That's the real reality of it. So if motherfuckers want to get deep, you understand? The only other thing is, nigga, you gonna be a good sheep and you gonna do A, B, C, D to be a good nigga, and that's it. That's what you gonna do. You see? And that's where it then got us. You see where it then got us right now to this day. You got masses, damn near 75% of the people in poverty. You see? Yeah, so that's not gonna get our ass no way. So this is what Malcolm X thought of Dr. Martin Luther King at that time. He seen him as one that was paid by European people to keep us in the predicament we in, being nonviolent, because he knows that by nature. See, I'm gonna tell you this, and I'm gonna move on because we going hard tonight. I got one more I want to talk about, and paying him to keep the slaves docile. The goddamn Europeans don't want no slave revolts. That's not what they want. They was always in fear of damn slave revolts. And they did everything that they could because most of the time, in the early part of this country, blacks was the majority. They was the majority on the plantations, and whites was the minority, and that's why they they opened up immigration to allow a lot of them Europeans to come over here so they can build up their numbers. You see what I'm saying? But we was and so they've always taught, you understand, to take over the mind psychologically, to keep the people from revolting, which they would naturally do. We have eliminated so many natural applications that people in all things in nature would use to preserve itself. And they have eliminated that in us, and subliminally, a lot of our people know that they should be overturning something. They just don't know what it is. They don't have they haven't, they've been taught away from but it's still something in them. And that's what they know. And they talk about that energy is still in, and you have to stay constant on keeping their ass dumbed down, keeping them that music out there to bleach these niggas' minds and keep them confused about what it's really about. You see what I'm saying? And so they know it's in our nature to come back to our natural self. Because if they thought that they had extinguished in us our consciousness, they wouldn't have to keep this shit, this stupid shit on media, on radio 24 hours a day to keep us dumbed down. That reality alone shows that we still a threat. As long as they have to continue to keep that operation of misinformation going every day, all day, we still a threat. That's real talk. I want to thank y'all family for being here. We got one more tonight. That's right. We got one more tonight. And I want you to, let me make sure. Okay. We got one more tonight. And so I want you to stay here with me, family, so we can put it down for the people, and don't you go nowhere, and hit some of them links, support the general, arm yourself with knowledge, bang on that wicked ass beast daily, liberation through African education and confrontation, Black Power.